Hey there, Jordan Chariton, live Status Coup. It is Monday, March 28th, the year 2022. Joined by Tina Desiree Berg out in the City of Angels, which is now becoming a greater part of the economic Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into. How you doing, Tina?
Good. Hoping my internet doesn't die again.
We shall see. We shall see. It seems this channel is being extra throttled recently, as is your internet. So we shall see what happens. But I wanted to. We got a lot to discuss, and smash that like button. Everybody share this live stream. Smash the like button. Thumbs up right under the live stream. I was trying to think of a way to incorporate Will Smith and Chris Rock, even though I don't particularly care that much. It was pretty shocking, this and that. So I thought Biden's speech today on his budget, to me, was a stronger slap in the face to the working class of this country than Will Smith's whatever that was, jaded lover thing. And by the way, if they didn't already know he was going to win, I think they would have escorted him out of there. Personally, that's just me.
Yeah, it was kind of a wild thing.
It was very wild, and of course, that's all the media is talking about today. But
yeah,
for those that saw Biden's speech earlier, he proposed his budget. Gave a lot of, shall we say, cheery rainbows and roses and sunshine on the strong labor market and historic recovery and all those good things. Colin, let's play the first part, him talking about the recovery.
Last year, we cut the deficit by more than $350 billion. This year, we're on track to cut the deficit by more than $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion. That would be the largest one-year reduction in the deficit in U.S. history. And here's how we're achieving this record deficit reduction. First, we're growing the economy. We've created a record 6.7 million jobs since I took office, and we've generated a GDP growth of 5.7%, the best economic growth we've seen in this country in over 40 years. This has led to substantial increase in government revenues and dramatically improved our fiscal situation. Secondly, this record economic and job growth has made it possible for us to responsibly and significantly cut back on emergency spending. Early in the pandemic, it was right to give people help to make ends meet and to keep this economy going. Because of the progress we've made dealing with these emergencies, the labor market is strong and unemployment claims are at historic lows. We ended the pandemic unemployment assistance programs because Americans are back to work. I'm calling for new pandemic subsidies for large businesses to not continue those because those businesses are back and moving again as well. But because we have to put this economy in a strong foundation, even the Delta and Omicron variants of COVID-19 and the cost of Putin's aggression in Ukraine have not required an additional fiscal package for state and local governments.
Wow. Howdy.
I know, right? Where do we begin?
Have you been having caviar, champagne, enjoying the economic boom? Yeah. What's interesting to me, and I'm doing this new series, Economic Hunger Games here, which we're going to air a new one in a little bit, where I'm actually interviewing real people to kind of expose this fantasy of a historic economic recovery, because I don't know what he's talking about. And it's not just him. Republicans do that when they're in office, right, and push nonsense numbers. But GDP, the unemployment.
Jobs, I mean, that's just ridiculous, too. They're coming back from having ridiculously low numbers because of COVID. So it's to act like this is some historic rebound is absolutely absurd. And I also wanted to bring up, and I'm sure you were offended by this, too, this idea that they were giving people help earlier on during the pandemic. That never happened. I'm sorry. The small stimulus checks that they did manage to give to folks wasn't enough. it was nothing compared to, like the UBI payments you would see in Europe. I mean, if they had done this properly, people would have been paid to stay home, more or less. And it wouldn't have, it's insane that they can't even recognize that small thing.
And I love that he's talking about, he's boasting about deficit reduction as Antarctica is literally 70 degrees above normal right now.
Yeah.
And rare ice caps that were not expected to melt are melting now.
They are melting. And, some of them are cheering that on because it's going to open up ways for them to transport goods quicker. So there's part of our capitalist economy that thinks that's a good thing, which is really disturbing. But I've seen that too.
Right. And folks, smash the like button. We're being squeezed by YouTube lately, as you can see by the numbers. So we need every person, press that like button, share this live stream, all that. So the other thing about this also is that he's talking about, the strong labor market, this and that. Nowhere in there is there any mention of the price gouging at the pump, price gouging at the supermarket, price gouging in the real estate market due to his Wall Street donors buying up properties all over the country, then putting, a little work into those properties and then jacking up the rent 30 to 50%. I just interviewed, it's up on the channel if you didn't watch it over the weekend. I just interviewed a senior citizen who literally is telling me she's suicidal because her rent went up $800. $800. Her rent went up. Unfortunately for her, her daughter died within the last year. Her mother died. Her brother and sister have cancer, so she can't go stay with them. She's got nowhere to go. And we're going to air in a bit an interview I just did with another senior citizen. She's got a rent control apartment. So she's one of the lucky ones. And she's literally eating rice and beans half the month. I mean, this is going on in the historic economic recovery. And it just, it's
what is Biden talking about? It's insane to me.
But, we're old enough here to remember the 2008 financial crash and the economic problems after 9/11. It's the same old record spinning. You have Wall Street bailouts in 2009, 2008. You got big corporate bailouts due to COVID. They do swimmingly well. The financial sector comes roaring back. They sprinkle in a little fairy dust for everybody else. Biden, a $1,400 check, unemployment for a few more months. And the numbers get artificially better because the majority of jobs that have come back are actually in the hospitality industry. No disrespect, but those aren't like strong, high wage union jobs.
They're not living wages. Yeah, they're crap jobs with crap pay. The people are underemployed in the country. If you want to use their language I'm going to call it, they're just not paid well enough. They haven't been for decades. We've seen a total degradation in wages that are paid, and nobody wants to address it. You top that off with a giant increase in consumer prices. Gas is almost $7 a gallon here in Los Angeles right now. People can't afford that. And couple that with the fact that we no longer, you brought up rent control housing. We have very little stock in that left here. Part of that is due, of course, because we had a bill called Costa-Hawkins that was passed back in the mid-90s, circa 1996, if I remember correctly. But this allowed for real estate developers to basically buy up old buildings, tear them down, rebuild new structures, and there would be no more rent control. And part of how they got this measure passed was they lobbied our state Senate, basically saying it's fine. We have plenty of stock and rent control apartments, but if we don't allow landlords to increase the rents, they're not going to upkeep the building. They use the same sort of economic garbage that they always use. And in reality, what happened is they got rid of all those rent control apartments and they haven't been replaced. So now you've got, $2,400 a month is your average rent here for a one bedroom. How are you supposed to make ends meet if you're getting paid minimum wage? Which all of these jobs that are coming back are basically minimum wage. Right.
Oh, and you have the Applebee's executives who their emails were leaked. And it's not just Applebee's. They're all thinking like this. Ooh, good. We got high gas prices. So people need to work extra hours and we could lower their wages even more.
So gross. It's so gross.
Tina, I got to tell you, we live in the United Corporations of America, as you know, the flag behind me. But most importantly, we're living in an economic Hunger Games. And I'm tired of this political fantasy. Democrats pushing it, Republicans when they're in power, that the economy is booming. The economy is an economic Hunger Games. You have senior citizens on the verge of suicide. I just interviewed today a 29-year-old who's got muscular dystrophy. So he's got a real health issue, lost his job during COVID, had to dip into his savings during COVID, finally got a job again in IT. But because the Social Security Administration screwed up, they told him, he went to them and said, I have a job now. So, what do I owe as far as, any payments for the disability he was getting? And they told him, no, you don't know anything, this and that. Told him 3 times. He kept going in there. You don't know anything. Good luck on your job. Now he got a letter. Over $9,000 to the Social Security Administration.
Wow.
By the way, this is on top. This is on top of all these people that got rental relief, and now they're getting letters in the mail. Well, you need to prove to us that you are actually eligible, or you're going to owe it all the way back. Meanwhile, you got seniors on the verge of suicide. Young people having to drain their savings because they lost their job in COVID. We're about to show the interview with a senior citizen who is rationing rice and beans, basically. But Biden, he's proposing an over $800 billion military budget. $800 billion military budget. It's Colin. Let's play the clip.
Security also means national and international security. This budget provides the resources we need to keep Americans safe, ensuring that our military remains the best prepared, best trained, best equipped military in the world. This budget also provides additional funding to forcefully respond to Putin's aggression against Ukraine and its economic, humanitarian, and security consequences. The world has changed. In addition to dealing with terrorist organizations, for the second quarter of the 21st century, we're once again facing increased competition from other nation states, China and Russia, which are going to require investments to make things like space and cyber and other advanced capabilities, including hypersonics. And this will be among the largest investments in our national security in history. Some people don't like the increase, but we're in a different world today. America is more prosperous, more successful, and more just when it is more secure.
Yeah, different world, a different world. So we need over $800 billion. Maybe it has something to do with, him letting the, what's the phrase? Cat out of the bag. That we're trying to do regime change and take Putin out. Colin, if we could play that clip. Maybe we don't have it.
Which clip is that?
Biden saying Putin needs to be removed.
I don't think I have that one. No.
Okay, that's fine. Biden over the weekend basically, said how terrible Putin is, and this man needs to be removed. Obviously, a lot of people might agree with that, but you and I were talking. It doesn't really seem like the United States is in a rush for this war to end. The Ukrainian, lot of innocent life lost on the Ukrainian side. There's a whole lot of Russian soldiers who have been killed too. But between Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, Biden, they didn't seem to empower Zelensky in negotiations. Zelensky actually had to come out and say, basically, the United States, we need you to do more to kind of push a peace deal here. And Jen Psaki, the press secretary, when asked, we definitely empower, or paraphrasing, we definitely empower the Ukrainian president to negotiate, hint, hint, but he has to clear it with us before he makes an agreement. And now, They're talking about taking Putin out, which is an expensive proposition. It is insane, Tina.
It is
Insane.
really insane. He also had the Freudian slip about having the troops being able to see when they're there on the ground, blah, blah, blah. He's saying that was a slip, but it's like, what are you doing there, Biden?
Right. And literally, this is at a time when we need, on a minimum level, I'd say $10 to $15 trillion to address the climate crisis. Like I said at the beginning, Antarctica is like 60 to 70 degrees right now, higher than normal. You got rare ice caps that were not expected to melting.
They're melting.
You're in California.
Jordan, is if we are beyond being able to undo the damage, though. Like, even if we stopped dumping carbon into the atmosphere tomorrow completely, we're sort of past a point of no return with certain things. So the idea that they're not even like thinking about what we do as far as going forward, living with this damage and finding ways, to carry on is just beyond belief to me. To me, this is an existential crisis. It's probably the most scary thing that we're actually facing right now. But like always, it gets little attention.
Right. It's crazy. Meanwhile, he's talking about in his little economic fantasy speech there, he was talking about, we needed to do short-term relief during COVID. We needed, short-term relief, this and that. But now, because COVID's over, we're done with that. Meanwhile, people are being evicted.
Yeah.
Colin, do you have the tweet? Do you have the tweet I sent? New York State cases are up 83% in a week. 83% in a week. And this guy's talking about, there you go. New York reports 2,000 coronavirus cases, an increase of 83% from last week. Cases are going up in the Northeast. There is basically no mitigation left at schools. Where I live, which is definitely not the South, people were wearing masks for the majority of this pandemic. Nobody's wearing a mask anymore, and you're already starting to see on social media accounts of parents talking about, kids are out sick. They're not even doing much testing at our schools, this and that. And Biden said, Congress won't give us any more money for COVID testing, possibly a fourth vaccine, whatever you think of the vaccines. We don't need to get into that. Tina and my position is clear. Or we don't have money to distribute vaccines to the third world, which is why we have all these variants.
So we have $773 billion for the Defense Department.
Oh, it's actually over 800 billion when you add in
Jesus,
semisonic, supersonics, crazy shit.
Yeah, whatever that thing he was talking about. Right. I mean, this is insane.
Right. It's just disgusting.
Remember the Eisenhower when he left office? He warned about the military-industrial complex, and you would have thought more people would have listened to him, being the fact he was Republican, he's a military guy. He actually knew what he was talking about. And all these years later, it is going full force, and it's sort of its own self-feeding machine right at this point because of the way. You have the bot Congress members, you have the regulatory capture, the guys go into the Defense Department, they go work for the Raytheons, the contractors. It's just, I don't know how you reel it in at this point.
An actual general strike, which it seems like we talk about, but there's no real left movement in this country aside from the strike wave going on, union drives. FYI, I'll be covering tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern, so that's 10 a.m. Pacific, the Amazon union election. So I'll be at Staten Island warehouse where it is. There's 2 more days left in the union election. If the Amazon workers win this union election, it is going to be a tidal wave. What you've been seeing with the Starbucks unionized stores and over 100 stores now trying to unionize. If one Amazon store unionizes, that's going to be an earthquake for the labor movement, just for period. Progressives.
I agree.
So I'll be covering that at 1 o'clock Eastern. It seems like YouTube is throttling us more than usual, so put it in your calendar. 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Tomorrow, I'll be out in Staten Island speaking with the workers as voting is going on. Again, voting ends on March 30th, so in 2 days. But Tina, if you allow me, I want to play some of this interview. For those of you that don't know, we're starting a new series. This is my second interview called The Economic Hunger Games. And why I'm calling it that is literally older people, younger people, doesn't really matter right now. Unless you won life's lottery, unless you come from money, unless you are an upper middle class professional type who's already been doing well, unless you are a tech bro, Wall Street, you're kind of screwed. And there is nothing being done to help people skyrocketing rent, housing costs, food, gas, healthcare. So I am interviewing real people. And if you have an economic story, whatever it is, your rent's skyrocketing, you're about to be evicted, facing homelessness, disability, you name it, reach out to us. info@statuscoup.com, info@statuscoup.com. I want to interview you. I did 2 of them today. I got more coming up this week. They're not sexy stories. They're kind of depressing, but I think important to tell these stories. Here's my interview with Barbara, who is a senior citizen living in Burlington, Vermont. So Bernie land. She has rent control, yet is literally rationing rice and beans half the month. Let's take a look. There, it's Jordan. I'm delighted to be joined by Barbara. You are up in Burlington, Vermont, which is a pretty liberal area of the country. Obviously, Bernie Sanders was the mayor of Burlington back in the 1980s. And I wanted to speak with you because we're doing something that I am kindly calling the Economic Hunger Games to kind of show the reality of this, quote, historic economic recovery that we keep hearing about from President Biden, Democrats. This is far beyond Biden. This is how the media and political parties depict the economy, basically since I've been paying attention. They look at unemployment numbers, the stock market, GDP, and declare things dandy. But you reached out to me because things are not so dandy for you up in Burlington. And you've really been struggling. So could you kind of talk about, what have you been facing in terms of rent, food, all those things?
Well, I'm in that awkward position right above true poverty. I am considered low, very low income in the city. Excuse me. And virtually all of the benefits go to the extremely low income people. And so I'm right above that line, which means that a lot of the benefits that are available for them are not available for me. I don't have a problem with that. I think extremely low income people should be served, but I think there ought to be a little bit more for those of us who are very low income. I'm in an apartment that has federal tax implications, and so they can only raise my rent 5% a year. They've been raising it at 3% a year for the last few years, and this year it's 5%, which means that in 4 years, my rent has gone up $120, and my actual income cannot keep up with that. My income is Social Security and a very small pension that would have been a lot larger if we hadn't had the crash in 2008. And my rent now takes, with a new rent, 42% of my income. Mm. Prices are rising in the grocery store. I have cats, and cat food is rising. A case of cat food that before the pandemic cost $12 is now almost $16. And that is a huge increase when you're considering a fixed income. And halfway through my month, I find myself making difficult decisions. The cats always get fed. They always get kitty litter, and I'm the one who is eating rice and beans for half the month with no fresh veggies, no fresh fruit, no nothing. But I'm not at serious risk because I am not extremely low income.
Right.
But the inflation that's going on now has impacted my rent, has impacted my utility bills, has impacted my food costs, and I don't have room in the small increases I get in Social Security and pension to cover what inflation is now doing. And I see the inflation that's going on now as nothing more than profit taking by companies that couldn't make profits during the pandemic.
Right.
Or make profits, but
And
didn't them all.
what's striking about your situation is you're one of the lucky ones to be in a rent control department. But even in a rent control department, you say you're paying nearly half of your income, which is largely Social Security.
And if you look around the city of Burlington, the apartment that I'm in is $150 less per month than any other available one-bedroom apartment in Burlington.
Mm.
We have no rent control. We have no cost controls on housing. And the landlords are taking everything they can get.
Right.
When I got told that my rent was going up, I started looking around for cheap places for retired people to live. And when I got to the scale of Vermont, they said, hey, Vermont is in the top 5 in medical care and community and 49th in cost of living.
Mm. Wow. And can you kind of talk about...
But I want to live here. I want to live here. It's where my friends are. It's a very progressive city. I don't want to go to some redneck backwoods to be able to afford to live.
Right. And what is, you said that about 43% is going to rent. Can you kind of talk about your other costs other than rent? Because if you're basically having to live off rice and beans half the time, obviously you have a lot of other expenses.
Well, I have a lot of medical expenses, which sort of come with being my age. I pay $500 a month basically for insurance, which is what keeps me out of the hospital, out of the morgue.
Mm-hmm. And that's with Medicare.
That includes Medicare. But that covers virtually all of my medical expenses, but $500 a month is $6,000 a year.
Right.
And so it's almost half as much as my rent. It is half my rent. Mm-hmm. So if you add 42 and 21, you get up to 63% before I start paying other bills, feeding myself or the cats.
Right.
And I want good internet, so I pay $77 a month for that. But everything else is just hand to mouth. Right. I'm one of those famous people Bernie talks about that doesn't have $500 if an emergency showed up.
Right. And what does it say to you? I mean, I don't know what you did in your working career, but you know, we are told there's an American dream where.
Oh, I actually lived the American dream, except for one problem, which is that I have a major depression, and I was disabled out in 2008, and then I lost all of my savings in the crash. Mm-hmm. And what was going to be my retirement money disappeared.
And you said that you said you had major what?
Depression.
Oh, okay.
I've had 3 major depressive episodes in my life and an underlying depression that goes on in between them.
Well, it must be fate because I'm with you. I've been in the middle of a weeks-long bout with depression, and it's not easy. In my case, trying to work through it because, as you know, you feel like a deflated balloon.
Well, actually, I felt sort of like I was numb, and I was a hermit for many years. And right now I have friends. I don't see them much because of the pandemic, but I have a hope of a life now if the money worries weren't there. I can't do much that I would like to do. I mean, there were movies I wanted to see that I couldn't see because I couldn't afford them. I mean, I really wanted to see Don't Look Back, and I didn't get to see it. And presumably sometime it will be on video or something that I can see. But you're hamstrung in a society that values money when you don't have any.
All right, Colin.
And I am so much better off than so many people.
So that's some of the interview I did with Barbara. We're going to post the whole thing tomorrow. Economic Hunger Games, Tina. I know it's depressing. I know these stories will not do as well as if I just got on right after Will Smith clocked Chris Rock last night. Probably would have got a couple 100,000 views in that case. But I think it's important to tell these stories because this is not a rare thing. This is more like the norm. In these cases, it's senior citizens, but seniors, young people, middle age, everybody is basically in quicksand, for lack of a better word, unless you have some special benefit or family or something like that, while being told everything's rainbows. Your mic's out.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh,
Hear you now.
We've seen what I was saying is we've seen a transfer of wealth from the working class to the 1% that's been going on for a couple decades now. I mean, even on a personal note, when I was in college in the 90s, I had a part-time job that paid me $16 an hour. This was like early 90s, $16 an hour. And right now we're fighting for 15. It's crazy. I was able to work part-time, pay my rent because my rent was nothing. We had a 2-bedroom. I had a roommate. It was like $800 a month. And tuition was still funded by the state of California at UC. So my tuition was like $400 or $500 a month. Now, compare that to where we are today in 2020. It's insane.
Right.
Like, I just don't understand how people don't recognize or get angry about that when they realize how much money has gone to the 1%. You know, right now, for example, in California, the Kroger grocery stores, which is multiple chains, they just signed a strike authorization. So they might be going on strike. They should go on strike. You know, they are in a situation where they were often offered a very small increase in wages. Meanwhile, the CEO had a pay package last year of over $22 million. So it's not as if the money's not there. The money is definitely there, and it doesn't necessarily need to be passed on to consumers in the form of prices, which is what they like to tell you, right? Well, if we do that, we're going to have to increase prices and consumers can't afford it. No. What you need to do is cut top executive pay. There's no reason that the CEO is making over 800% more than your average worker is. It didn't always used to be this way.
Right. And what's really incredible here is she's in Vermont. She's in a rent-controlled apartment. They're putting it up at 5%, which they're claiming is that's the benefits of rent control. Well, if your rent's going up 5% every year and you're on Social Security and you're not working, and she, suffers from depression, which you and I have talked off camera. I've had a hell of a time recently, to tell you the truth. I won't get into the whole sob story, but switch medications, current medications not working. Actually have an appointment in a bit. I mean, I honestly, for me, I cannot imagine if I was a senior citizen or struggling economically. I mean, fortunate, I'm doing okay financially. I'm not like a millionaire or anything, but I can't imagine being a senior, having health issues, mental or physical, and your rent's going up 5% every year.
Yeah.
And you're having to basically eat rice and beans half the year while being fed a bunch of crazy bullshit about how the labor market's strong and the economy is doing wonderful and Americans are getting back to work, Biden said. Yeah, in very gentrified neighborhoods, people are doing okay.
But that is a smaller and smaller percentage of our population. We absolutely do have a shrinking middle class. I think also what she mentioned in regards to her Medicare is really an important part of the conversation. She's, in addition to having her Medicare, right? This is an 80-20 program. It's not 100%. It never has been. She's paying $500 a month for her extra expenses on that. It might be additional insurance she picks up, to pay for things that aren't covered by Medicare. That is a tremendous amount of money for a senior citizen to fork out if they're living off of only Social Security.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
is tremendous. $500 a month. I mean, I'm not retired on Social Security, and I would struggle with that payment. I mean, my insurance is bad enough. But as you get older, it gets, more expensive, obviously, because you're more prone to illness. But the fact that we have all this profiteering going on in our health system also needs to be dealt with. It's part of the problem.
Well, also, at the end of the day, I was surprised 60 Minutes did a piece on this. You essentially have the donors, i.e. Wall Street and real estate developers, have been given the keys to our local and state government. They are allowed to buy up as soon as a house is on the market. They're in there with cash offers.
That's
sometimes going over asking price. So they're allowed to come in. Maybe then they, in a lot of cases, they're putting in, 10, 15 grand, renovating, yada, yada. And then they're jacking it up 40, 50%.
They're also just sitting on housing. Like we've had a problem here in Los Angeles. We've actually had hedge funds buying housing. I kid you not, hedge funds. And oftentimes they'll sit there empty. It's just another investment for these incredibly wealthy people because they have so much money that they're hoarding that's just sitting there in their bank accounts. It's just growing interest, right? It's the transfer of wealth that's gone to the top income earners in this country is really devastating. And if it doesn't get corrected, it's not tenable. Like we cannot carry on down this path. We can't.
I have a handy dandy chart to help you with that transfer of wealth. Colin, if we could put up the income inequality chart. So this is the booming economy he's talking about. I don't know what year it stops at, but that looks like it's going into the mid 2010s. So that little blue line is your strong economy for the aristocrats and elite. And down there at the bottom in the yellow is the rest of us. And what's amazing about this, it's only getting worse, and that's gotten a lot worse during COVID. And the thing is, they're now basically COVID. If you look at England, European countries, this new variant that's spreading, hospitalizations are way up, deaths are starting to go up.
Yeah.
But here, they live with it, learn to live with it. So we're doing away with any mitigation when teachers are going to be out, when factory workers are going to be out. Half of them don't have paid sick leave, all this. And we've dropped all the protection measures. I get the instinct to want to do that. But as soon as we're dropping them, there's more variants coming because of the new the overall scandal, which is this president is not using his emergency powers to take over the patent from Moderna and Pfizer and share the vaccine formula with the rest of the world because you have third world countries literally with the factories ready to manufacture it. They don't have the recipe. And they're actually trying to basically figure out what the formula is because these greedy, immoral pharmaceutical companies will not share it. And Biden, Ralph Nader pointed out, Biden has emergency powers that the government can take over the patent, which they should because the government did the research. So
that's it, Jordan. That's the most offensive part of that entire conversation is the fact that it is taxpayer funded research. So why is it that they get to not have any risk taking, right? We're financing the research, but they get to capitalize all of the profits. This is absolutely insane. It is just grotesque.
Absolutely. But what we're going to get in the midterms are distractions. So the Democrats, they're still going to run. I think they're going to run on Russia, Ukraine, and somehow Biden has staved off World War III, even though I think Biden and his people did a lot to stoke this. I mean, Putin at the end of the day,
100%. That's right.
Putin at the end of the day is responsible. He invaded. Yes. I don't understand these leftists, by the way, who are like, I don't get it. Like a lot of so-called leftists just want to, well, what about America? It's like, why can't you do two things at once?
Sometimes
why can't you?
There's no good player in an arena. I
Right.
don't know what there's something about Americans that they want to sort of have a good and an evil, right? There has to be these bipolar juxtapositions, but
Right.
sometimes that's just not the way it is. Sometimes there are just bad players, and
Right.
two people can be wrong at the same time. I mean, Putin is definitely a warmonger, and he's a horrible person who has done. This isn't the only horrible thing he's done, but that doesn't mean that NATO also hasn't upped the ante towards this war. That there is definitely a ultranationalist problem in Ukraine. Like all of these things can be true at the same time.
Right. And by the way, folks, help us keep the lights on. A couple super chats would make us all feel a little better. And also support this reporting. You could become a member for as low as $5 a month. As far as I know, I'm the only one interviewing actual people about their economic struggle and the economic Hunger Games. It is not sexy. These are not the stories that go viral, but I didn't do this to, I'd love to go viral, but I did this to actually tell people's stories and actually pop the bubble of the fantasy land that we're being fed by Democrats and Republicans. So support us, statuscoup.com/join. You could also support us as a member, we could do the on-the-ground reporting. We're going to play some of the clips we did last week in our Florida reporting trip in a little bit. But to put a bow on this, Tina, I don't really see this changing because essentially you have the largest voting group, which is the non-voters, that have become so rightly so cynical, hopeless.
They're tuned out. Yeah,
right. They're tuned out. And then you have the most consistent voters, which are the older voters, who most of them are not in Barbara's situation.
No.
And they're just going to vote because the Democrats are going to send out mailers. Help us, Clarence Thomas, he needs to be removed and we're going to fight to remove him. Or we're going to fight to punish him. He should be removed, by the way. And put out stuff about January 6th and all this stuff that is not actually addressing reality. And the Democrats are going to put out about the Republican culture wars and how the Republicans are trying to take us backwards, which they are. But this is how Democrats basically get cover for doing nothing economically.
I agree because they're placating that portion of the population that you're mentioning. And I would say I'm at the tail end of that, right? Because things were so much more affordable back in the 90s, right? I was able to buy a house. My mortgage payment is far less than most people pay in rent. I could not afford to buy this house right now in this day and age. Absolutely no way. There's no way that would happen. But I benefited of policies that were in place before, right? And so I'm in a comfortable position in regards to where I'm at financially, more so than a lot of other folks. And they won't have the same opportunities. They don't have the same opportunities. So I would like to at least have these folks try to understand what it's like to be, 25, 30 years old in this environment. You've got a lot of student debt that we didn't have. I never had to take a student loan. I have a master's degree and I never had to take a student loan because I benefited from a system where the public universities were still financed, not 100%. And they did start to definance them in the process when I was in school. So I saw the tuition double to where it is, today. It's like insane though. So how are you supposed to get by? How are you supposed to get by? I mean, it's just not feasible. Like if you start to try to put the mathematics together, you learn really quickly that, wow, like none of this adds up.
Well, it's not only how are you supposed to go by, but we're now creating an eviction crisis while neoliberal scummy mayors like Eric Adams in New York City, he is now talking by Friday, he's going to get rid of the rest of the homeless encampments in New York City, basically as if it's just garbage collection. He's destroying 150 homeless encampments in New York City by Friday. and I might go in and cover
You
it.
should go in and you should cover it, Jordan, because I've covered some of them here. We've been doing this in LA for a long time. We've criminalized poverty, and in fact, we're up on a 1-year anniversary of what happened at Echo Park Lake. That was a year ago, a couple days ago, which was devastating. We covered that, but now they've redistricted the city council maps here in Los Angeles. So the city councilman that is responsible for what happened in Echo Park Lake, his name is Mitch O'Farrell. He's now my council person because I got redistricted for some reason into his district. And he's running his reelection campaign right now. And I'm seeing Mitch O'Farrell, up and down the streets. I see his yard signs. So the NIMBY, for lack of a better word, the upward mobile white population here absolutely are going to vote for this guy because they're okay with the criminalization of poverty. They're doing okay, right? They're being self-absorbed, and I don't think they're truly the leftists that they perceive themselves to be, but they're doing okay. So they're like, it's okay, Mitch, if you want to criminalize poverty, I don't want those guys in my neighborhood. I don't want them in my backyard. One of the things that's been floated around as far as a policy, and I kid you not, is opening up empty jail cells for the homeless, which is insane. Like, it's like, wow, really? Now we're actually going to put the homeless folks in prison because we can't, offer up any other alternatives? Right. This is really where we're at? Come on, right, man. It's just gotten so ridiculous. It's almost like these guys are all caricatures of politicians. Like, they say this stuff with a straight face, and I don't even think they realize how it sounds.
Absolutely. And keep those super chats coming. I'll read them in a bit. Real quick detour to another story. I was in Florida last week with Colin. We were covering, a lot of people think that the culture wars aren't connected at all to what we're talking about and this economic new Gilded Age and this economic Hunger Games. The culture wars are basically galvanizing the Republican base and serving as cover to the economic Hunger Games. And today, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida signed the Don't Say Gay bill that we were covering on the road the other day. And to those people, because I've actually we've lost subscribers from people who are actually buying this bullshit that, this Jordan, it's just to prevent talk of sexual activity or identity for young kids. Yeah, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
You want to know how I know?
Because I've read. Believe that, do they?
I read the bill. Probably I read the bill, unlike most of the politicians and DeSantis, who just signed it today. So I want to show and keep those super chats coming. We really need some help. YouTube is squeezing us, so we'll read them at the end. Thank you so much, Peter. $99. Thank you. But I want to play a few clips. Colin, if we could start with some of the LGBTQ high school students I spoke with. Some of them are transgender, some of them non-binary. I want to show you what this bill actually is and who it's affecting.
Any state. And queer teens are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. And they know that because I said that and I was one of hundreds that said that testifying in the Senate and the House of Representatives. I went door to door talking to senators and representatives, Republican and Democrat, telling them these statistics and telling them personal stories. They heard me, they listened, and they voted for it anyways because they know what they're doing and they are trying to kill us.
Well, I think you nailed it, because if you have a Republican Party that's viewed as fighting and exciting their base, even though they're fighting for terrible things, and you have a Democratic Party where there's only a couple progressives within that party fighting for affordable housing, while the rest of the party is taking money from Disney and real estate developers and basically corrupt. People are just going to vote for the Republicans, and there's a lot of people that will just sit it out because they're like, I know the Republicans are bad, but what are the Democrats doing to help my life?
The Democrats and the Republicans aren't even that different when it comes to like the political spectrum, like as a whole. And Republicans are going farther and farther right, and Democrats are saying, we should become more center to appeal to them. No, you should go farther left, and we need to mobilize, and we need to, exactly. We need to get people energized. We need to get people involved. They have created such an intense, frightening base of people, and we need to be able to counter that with the same energy,
maybe
except
not frightening, but
not frightening and not more dangerous, and not
cult-like.
Independent,
though. No.
But more action-based instead of old and useless.
You have all these corporations that put the LGBTQ flag in their windows.
Oh.
Disney, Comcast, AT&T,
And
but they give a ton of money to the sponsors of this bill, and Disney, they basically were forced to react to this.
Disney is a particularly upsetting one, but Pride capitalism as a whole is so disturbing. Pride was a protest. It was a beg for liberation. And these companies will show up at Pride events with their little booths and little like Pride merchandise with their logo on it, and like Disney will make however much money and then donate to these anti-LGBTQ politicians and not pull their weight and make a difference when they need to.
So what was striking about it, because the other part of our conversation, a lot of people think like, oh, the only issue they care about is LGBTQ. No, they were talking to me. These are high school kids. They were talking to me about affordable housing, the climate crisis, this and that. But there's, at least in Florida and many of these other states where it's a culture war on steroids, politicians are distracting the masses from those actual issues by creating solutions for problems that don't exist. There's not discussion happening in school from kindergarten through 12 about like gay LGBTQ and gay people. And as Governor DeSantis's press secretaries called it, that this is an anti-grooming bill. I mean, so to the people who
He called it that?
Oh yeah. No, she called it that, his press secretary. So the people who say, to the people who say, Jordan, stick with economic issues, this is a culture war distraction. Well, if you're a progressive, you should care about people.
You should care. Yeah.
Yeah, you should care about people. LGBTQ are people just like you and I. And number two, care about the economics. This is what's helping them screw you economically by pushing this nonsense bullshit that the media covers.
Yeah.
Because the media is not going to cover, they're not going to call for anything or be outraged about high gas prices, 30 to 50% rent increases, but they will cover this because it's a distraction.
It's a distraction. I mean, there's a reason that guys like Charles Koch and other billionaires fund groups like Council for National Policy, which is that far-right Christian think tank organization that's very secretive. But, you know, a part of their agenda is, you know, anti-trans, anti-gay folks. Obviously, they want to overturn Roe v. Wade. I mean, all of these very, you know, far-right Christian ideals they want to put into place, into the government. And there's a reason somebody like Charles Koch benefits from that.
Absolutely.
And other members of the Platonomy. So, no, I think you're correct. And fascism always increases during times of income inequality.
Yep.
I don't think that's a crazy statement.
And by the way, just to be clear, because some people were just buying this Republican line, the bill actually states K through third grade, no discussion of sexual identity or LGBTQ, or if you have same-sex parents, no discussion on that, or anything deemed not age appropriate, which creates the Pandora's box for any age, for any grade. And who decides what's age appropriate discussion?
And these are the same people that want to talk about council wars and free speech and censorship and all these things, right?
Right. And small government while they're and
right.
By the way,
and small government, right.
I interviewed those high school students. They told me we're all on antidepressants and most of our friends in the LGBT community are suicidal. And that's before this bill. And now you're adding on to they're already being bullied. While I was interviewing them, there was people passing by, like basically snickering at them. So this is going on. And why are Republicans like DeSantis winning? Because Democrats like Biden and Democrats, name your Democrat, are giving you $1,400 checks and a kick in the ass as you're either evicted or lose your unemployment.
Right.
Or have to go into work with because you don't have paid sick leave during a pandemic. That's what's emboldening these Republicans.
Oh, I agree.
Colin, if we could play one more.
At the same time, they're pushing away like a big chunk of their potential voters by doing that, right? I mean, how many voters did the Democratic Party permanently lose by going after Bernie Sanders the way they did. I mean, there is a chunk of the Democratic Party that went away that I don't know if they're so nihilist now. I don't know that they're ever going to come back. I don't think Biden or any of these other guys can convince them to come back and vote for their candidates.
Right.
And they don't see the problem. It's crazy.
And by the way, don't think it's going to stop here. DeSantis signed this. Texas is basically trying to criminalize parents of transgender students.
Yeah.
If they get away with this, what's the next thing? That we're going to forbid any displays of LGBTQ? If there's a gay
hypocrisy, a lot of this is driven. People want to say like, well, United States was created off of Christian values, blah blah blah. No, we were based on this idea of religious tolerance, which means you can't really have any sort of religious indoctrination inside your government, because the minute you do that, there's no longer tolerance for another group, right? Everybody is free to believe what they want to believe only when everybody is free to believe what they want to believe. You know what I'm saying? But these people want to install like a theocracy. I mean, I go back to the CNP just because they're on my mind this week. They had a meeting here in Southern California behind closed doors a couple weekends ago. And Alex Villanueva, who is our LA County Sheriff, who ran as a Democrat, ran as a Bernie Sanders supporter, but has been a very, very much the opposite in office. He was photographed down there with these guys.
Right.
And just one more example, it's crazy, but this is kind of where we're at. It's like these guys are like what I said, they're caricatures. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And here, Alex Villanueva, he does this. And then he also comes to the Feel the Burn Democratic Club and tries to get their endorsement.
Right.
It's like, come on, man.
It's outrageous.
It's
I got to actually wrap because I have an appointment at 6, but I want to read some super chats. Kami John, $2. That ain't inflation. That's corporate greed. You know it.
Yeah, I agree.
Cheryl
100%.
Tyler, $20. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Hey, Jesus Alvarez, $50. Thank you.
Wow.
Peter Iannone, $99.99 for pizza. Well, thank you. I'm trying to avoid the gluten right now, but I maybe I'll get some gluten free.
I'll eat your chair.
Thank you, Peter, for that kind donation. Folks, I'm going to keep it real. You're not blind. The numbers have fallen off a cliff. I think it has to do with YouTube suppression. We're looking at the numbers and they don't even make sense. We were going live on the road to 100 live viewers. We have 127,000 subscribers. If you can, please sign up today, statuscoup.com/join. We will continue covering the economic Hunger Games. We will continue doing on-the-ground reporting as much as we could afford, and that's where you come in. statuscoup.com/join. You get great perks as a member. We're going to do our monthly members call either this week or next week through Zoom, and that's with all members on Zoom. You don't have to have your camera on. You could just listen if you don't want to be on camera. And there's some other stories I'd like to go cover on the ground, but we need to boost our membership. We haven't had a lot of signups recently. So consider signing up today, statuscoup.com/join for $5 a month. We have $5 a month, $10 a month, a couple other plans. We also have our store if you want to get our merchandise in time for spring and summer. That's statuscoup.com/store. Get your United Corporations of America shirt, get your Fossil Fuckers shirt, and other merchandise. So definitely check out our store where we have all our swag, and the United Corporations of America shirt is right now the most popular. That's all I got. Please, tomorrow, again, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, I'll be live from Staten Island's warehouse, the second to last day of the Amazon union election, which is a huge story. And again, if they are successful, it will be a tidal wave for working people. And you will start seeing a lot more Amazon warehouses.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jordan. I am probably the last person in the United States that is not an Amazon Prime member, because I have refused to just give them more money. It's just done so many horrible things to workers' rights and things. But if they unionize, I will become a Prime member.
There you go.
I support that.
Again, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. YouTube might not notify you, so put it in your calendar. I'll be live around 1 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. Got to go. Thanks, guys.